Hi there, I'm Amy Griffiths and I'm one of the journalists in Manx Radio's newsroom. And today we're talking about housing, because getting young people to stay on our island is a topic that's often discussed here, but it's an even harder feat while in the midst of a housing crisis. So what can be done to help tackle it? Tynwald regularly holds select committees to scrutinise various elements of government, but they also have youth committees doing the same thing. In fact, the Youth Housing Select Committee has just had its first meeting. 2 of the 7 members, aged between 15 and 25, are 16-year-olds Alex Cowley and Riona Zahman, who've been talking to me about some of the key issues they've found.
My name's Alex Cowley and I'm the chair of the Tynwald Youth Committee. At the minute I'm in sixth form doing my A-levels.
Hi, I'm Riona Zahman. I'm also part of this committee and I do sixth form at St. Leonard's.
So from a very young age I've always been interested in politics and advocating. So for me this was like the perfect chance to actually do it at a large scale.
I've just got quite a loud mouth, so I like speaking on behalf of other people and standing up for others. So when my head of year told me about this committee, she thought I'd be a good person for this role.
Why do you think that housing is such a big topic here on the Isle of Man?
I think it's quite a big topic because most people, when they come to the Isle of Man, they do their education here and then they go off and they'll only come back if they're having a family or whatnot. And most young people don't want to stay on the Isle of Man because it's so expensive to stay here, whether you're renting or you're buying a house, the deposit, the fees. And if they were already renting, the money that renting, it still wouldn't be enough to put a deposit. And I think the government needs to take this into action because if they do, then it could solve the problem of young people not staying on the Isle of Man.
So for people, say they don't want to go to university and they want to stay here, they go into full-time employment, like soon they'll have to move out, but then you have the issue of half of their wages, over half even, is going to go to rent. And sometimes you find the landlords, like the price they're putting out the houses to be, isn't the quality matched. And so if people have issues with their rental, there's not really any inspections going on or anything to make sure that they keep the housing up to a good standard. Like if you're a first time buyer, if you're trying to find somewhere, it just seems really unrealistic, especially like our age, maybe 16, but if you're going to 25, even then, like trying to find the money for the deposit, trying to get a guarantor for your rent, say you're coming out of care, all these things, it just makes it so difficult.
What is it that you're hoping to be able to achieve with this committee?
So I think making or building more housing that will be affordable to young people so that it just meets the requirements like needed, just simple housing. For contractors, they have to build a certain amount that are classed as affordable, but whether or not they are actually affordable or how many of those are being built, trying to make legislation in place that would mean that those housing was being built more, like social housing for some people. The waiting list, especially if you are like 16 to 25, it's such a long list because you don't fall as high priority. So trying to make that like more available. And then for renters, trying to make sure that legislation is up to the requirement and making sure that landlords are keeping their houses to a good standard.
So I think the accessibility of housing, because there's quite a lot of like old buildings or abandoned buildings that aren't being used, and that could save costs of having to build more, because this topic can also like fall into other topics such as mental health, because me and Alex, we both know, well, all young people know the waiting list for CAMHS is quite long, and having housing that's either too expensive and you have those worries of financial struggles, and also it can impact your self-confidence, like the environment that you're living in, that can impact your mental health. So I think that if the government actually listened to us and what the young people have to say, because we are the future of the Isle of Man, so the Isle of Man's future is literally in our hands, so if they improve that, then maybe the waiting list for CAMHS would go down or other topics could be helped as well.
I think there's like plenty of room for things to be put in place. Like if you look just as an example, there's like 6,000 derelict buildings, so some of those maybe being turned around just to be put into housing, you know, not up to a great standard, but up to a standard for first-time buyers. And they've tried, there's different things put in place at the minute, like mid-rent property. They tried, down in Colby. And I think that was quite successful. So maybe more of that. So your rent is like subsidised by the government for people that are like first-time buyers, first renters, people that aren't earning that much, so low income. Or maybe like trying, at the minute in the UK, they're going to try and put in a scheme of 1%. So you put down a deposit of 1%, and then you eventually pay that back to the government to try and enforce something similar.
And do you think that housing is a big enough priority for the current administration? Do you think it's being highlighted enough?
I don't think it's being highlighted enough at all, yeah.
I think it's quite obvious it's not being highlighted. Like, for many people, if you just ask them on their experience or see the figures of like the population who own a house over here, it's majority older population. Younger people at the minute, if you look, they just can't afford to do that. And while there might be bigger things the government has prioritised for the young people, unless you don't want them to stay here, I think this is going to be something that needs to be reviewed.
So you've had a few meetings with the committee so far already. What have been the main topics that you would say have come up that you would really like to address?
The main topics have been accessibility of like private and public sector housing, and the quality of them, and how often those regulations that are put in place are actually listened to, and why they're not being listened to, whether it's due to staff or due to just them not bothering. Also, like first-time buyer schemes, and making it more accessible for young people to get their own apartment or housing, because most people that do that, they have a family, so it's kind of neglecting the young people by not considering their points.
And also been doing people like coming out of care, how difficult it is for them. And then obviously if they are looking to rent a place, getting a guarantor is so difficult because they might not have that family to go to. And then if they're on the social housing waiting list, like how long that is. And if they're trying to buy somewhere, obviously the wage they'll be earning going into a starting job, it just won't be high enough.
Has this inspired you to have a potential career in politics?
Yeah, I originally wanted to do medicine, but you could also combine medicine with politics, because I feel like there's quite a lot of issues surrounding the hospitals and stuff like that and staff. So I feel like this will help me with my future.
Yeah, I think going forwards, I definitely do want to be like in politics. Just seeing that if you like push for something and advocate for something, that a change is possible.
And would that be here on the island?
I think, yeah, it would probably be here on island, because as a minority and also as women, I think we need more of those, especially young people, just changing how the Isle of Man is, basically.
I think for me, if I can afford a place to live, then yeah, it will be over here.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.